And we are live. Hello.
How are we doing? All right.
How are you? Have you paid your internet bill?
I always pay the internet bill, mate. I just don't get the service that I'm supposed to be getting.
So,
you know?
The people want to know, sir. Before we start, this is Chain Wrestling. I'll let Si go through all that spiel, but I need to know what happened with Virgin Media.
Well, someone's going to get an ass kicking, Max, because I rang them twice. I've made a complaint. They've said they've sorted it out for me. They've said they've rectified it for me, and it has been better, to be fair. Still not 100% perfect, but it has been better. But then I'm expecting a phone call back by a certain time about my complaint, because apparently that's what they do now. They call you back, and the call's not come. So again, fantastic customer service, eh?
I can actually follow you up with that because after the show, my internet started messing about to the point where we had no internet overnight for like the full day. So we got onto Virgin Media. They said it wasn't a fault on their line. They ended up getting an engineer out, replaced our router. And it's been bob on since. So yeah, keep on it, pal.
Yeah, definitely. Hopefully we will have no issues tonight. Hopefully so. Anyway, speaking of tonight, good afternoon, good evening, good morning, wherever and whenever you may be listening or indeed watching from. And thank you so much for joining us once again. This is Chain Wrestling Live with Mags and Si, or Chain Wrestling Sunday this week. Chain Wrestling Sunday Live, whichever way you want to take it, I guess. Brought to you by the fantastic, wonderful, glorious people at Radio Tekkers. We
are those fantastic, glorious people.
We are.
Brought to us by us, because we are glorious.
I'm the slightly tired and sleepy side because I had a couple of pints this afternoon. It's been warm, so I'm a bit dozy, but I'm sure I'll wake up very, very soon. But looking bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, and joining me once again is the Tony Hart to my Bob Ross. Now, they're both artists, so they draw a lot, and the poll this week was a draw. So when you think about it, that's really, really clever. Okay?
Less of those puns on this show. So now this is Chain Wrestling with just Mags, if he's going to be pulling those dad jokes.
The Mr. Perfect to my Mr. Kind of Pretty Average, I guess. A podcaster that was delighted to hear Chain Wrestling pays double for working a Sunday. The podfather himself, Mr. Mags. How are we doing, my friend?
Yeah, I am absolutely ecstatic that Radio Tekkers pays double. Double of zero is it's still zero though. But
it is.
Then you get emergency tax as well. So I'm actually down on the deal. But for context, we're here on Saturday because real life always happens, and unfortunately, Monday is a no-go for the foreseeable future. So stick with us. We may not always be on the Sunday, but we'll certainly promote it all over our social media to make sure that you're fully aware when we're going live until we can pin down a genuine schedule for this show going forward. But we're glad you can join us on this this very sticky, humid Sunday.
Yeah, and it's quite a unique show for a couple of different reasons, Magsy. I mean, first of all, it's the first Chain Wrestling on a Sunday, which I don't know, feels kind of nice, mate. Right? Yeah, round off your weekend with us two morons. What could people ask for that's better than that, mate? Eh?
Yeah, if you've had a piss poor weekend, just watch us and just feel better about your own life.
Yeah, that's right. And the poll this week, amazingly, for the first time in, 36 episodes in, 35 episodes in, something like that. Obviously, we have our two options that people vote for on Twitter, deciding on where we go. I had a little notification come up on my phone saying the poll for this week has ended. I clicked on it, looking to see the results, knowing it was quite close for a little while. And it was split 50-50. A perfect draw.
I mean, we've had close calls before where it's been like 52-48 and things like that, but never right down the middle. This is historic.
Yeah. And I sort of messaged you, Max, didn't I? And I was like, okay, what do we do now? It's 2 matches. The whole point is that we just sort of follow where the people want, and that's what you said, Magsy, wasn't it? If they voted this way and they want us to talk about both, then bloody hell, we'll talk about both.
Yeah, but on the flip side of the coin, and I wish I'd have thought of this at the time, they thought that maybe we didn't have to review any of them, so we could have gone with none. But yeah, we've
okay. What, had a week off or something?
Yeah, well, essentially. But no, I mean, there would be no 2 matches better for a split decision for us to both watch. These were 2 banger shows.
Yeah, so many options, I suppose, as to where we go from this as well. The 2 matches that we could potentially link from. So yes, it was quite interesting as well when it came out that it was a draw. I suppose it shows how good both of these matches are, that they're both counted so highly by our listeners or viewers' thoughts. Before we get into the wrestling, though, Max, how's your week been, bud? What have you been up to? Anything good?
Yeah, it's been busy in terms of content. UFC last night, Tekkers on Saturday. In terms of real life, hot sticker. Just having to crack on and do the best we can. I think our fans have been blaring pretty much every day. Then we had the issue with the internet, which was fun because who wants to sit talking to family when you can randomly doom scroll on Twitter? But yeah, it's been a very, very decent week, to be fair.
Good stuff, mate. Good stuff. The Olympics has started, Magsy. You're a fan of the Olympics? Are you into all that, or?
Usually I am. In terms of this Olympics, not so much because there just hasn't been any real hype for it. It's the more hype has been for the Japanese people not wanting it and kind of protest about it. And then you hear about the Olympic Committee and the horrific people that have been involved in setting up this Olympics. In the end, it's just gone from bad to worse.
Yeah, definitely. I'm kind of hit and miss when it comes to the Olympics and events like this, to be honest, because there is so many events. Obviously, it caters to a lot of different people's tastes. Some people like some of it, some people don't. I'm not a massive fan, if I'm honest. I mean, I like my wrestling, I like my football, I like a bit of boxing. That's kind of it for me, really. I don't really get into masses else sports wise. But the Olympics, I'll watch a bit of. The wife has a lot on, and she really enjoys it. But I'm not a big fan of like the floor stuff they do when they do all the tumbling and the rolling with the ribbons and all that. That's not for me. And some of the other events, again, not a big fan of. But the opening ceremony, I caught a little bit of the other day. Did you see any of this, Mags?
I haven't seen any of the Olympics at all yet.
First of all, some of it is spectacular. They had so many, I think like a couple of hundred or whatever it was, drones with lights on in the air that formed a globe.
I did see that. Yeah,
that was amazing because all it takes is for one of them to go wrong and the whole thing just falls to shit, doesn't it? That was incredible.
Just one rogue drone, just
knocking the crap out of everything. You also have like the kids getting involved in the presentation, which is great for them, memories for them for the rest of their life. Absolutely fantastic. And then the torch being lit and all that, that's all good as well. But this bloody thing went over 3 hours, mate. Over 3 hours of this. And a big portion of it, and I understand why they're introducing the teams, but a big portion of it is they're coming out of this big door into the arena, and they're all wearing tracksuits or suits or their get up for the presentation. Somebody's their flag bearer, they're holding the flag, and they're all looking around and so on, right? Now, I've seen this in other Olympics. I get it. It takes a long time. They got to go through all the countries because there's so many that have entered. I understand. It drags on a bit, but it is what it is. But obviously this year, because of COVID, there's no one there. It's an empty arena. There's literally no one there. So you've got all these...
a live television audience.
Yeah, but they're looking up to the stands and they're waving like this.
They're not in the Thunderdome.
I'm saying to the wife, who the fuck are they waving at? and then honestly, they come out like, oh yeah, I'm from Papua New Guinea and I'm from Sri Lanka and I'm from, and it's like, yeah, but there's no one there. What are you doing? Who are you waving to? It was the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen, and they've all got their cameras out and they're all filming it as well. And it's like, you're filming empty seats. What are you doing?
It's like a WWE event.
Well, yeah, recent ones, yeah, I suppose.
No,
Ah,
unfortunately, I haven't caught any of the Olympics. I've heard a quite an interesting tale though. There's a Ugandan powerlifter who he went AWOL from the Olympic village, I suppose. He left a note saying that he doesn't want to go back to Uganda, that he's staying in Japan. He wants to live and work there and to send all his belongings back to his wife in Uganda.
why? So he's left his wife and everything.
Well, no, they found him. He's been sent home and he's facing potential criminal charges. So, yeah, fun for the Ugandans in the Olympics.
Fantastic, man. Fantastic. Shall we get to Twitter and see what the wonderful viewers / listeners, whether you're watching along now or you're listening to the audio version later in the week when that comes out, shall we see what they've been giving us this week, Magsy?
Yeah, just before that, though, let's quickly run through some of these comments. We've got plenty of action in the chat. Obviously, we showed this one a little bit earlier, but Scottish Danny, he's more excited about the show than we are, and we fully appreciate that. Thank you, Danny. We are live, pal. Matt, going back to when our Virgin talk, we're saying the odd time when a Virgin got fucked. Matt, that is horrific talk. The best Powell in the house, Mrs. Powell, hi guys, and Anya. I see Dad's already promoting his new podcast with his shirt. I noticed that. I noticed it. Do you want to run over what your new podcast is about, sir?
Yeah, sure. I mean, we did cover it briefly last week, but it's coming up very fast when we're going to start chucking episodes out, I believe. Benny Mack, our good friend Benny, who's been involved in chain wrestling in the past, helped us out with some voiceovers and intros and so on. He's a good buddy of mine. We met through doing commentary for Evolution Wrestling a while back. It turns out he's a massive Quantum Leap fan, and so am I. So the idea suddenly popped up, well, why don't we do a podcast and talk about Quantum Leap? So that's going to be the plan. We're going to go episode by episode, just rewatching the show. Not a watch along or anything that sort of form, but we're going to watch the show and then basically record our thoughts, what we liked, what we disliked, and hopefully have a bit of fun looking back on this this sort of, I suppose, cult show. It's got a bit of a cult following. It's a bit niche, I guess. It's fairly dated now. Yeah, exactly. Nearly, yeah. I mean, it ended in 93, so it's fairly dated now. And there's Benny in the chat there. How you doing, Benny? Going to be awesome. I hope so, my friend.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a fun, unique podcast. I remember watching Quantum Leap years ago, and it was one of those shows that it kept you coming back for more week after week. Some great stories. So yeah, it'll be cool to follow along and maybe watch along some episodes as well.
Yeah. Hopefully so. People will hopefully get some good memories from that. I just love the show. It's a nice program. It's the good guys normally win, the bad guys normally get their comeuppance, and it's just a nice feel good show. One little kick in the balls, though, it really is, to do this watch along, I had to buy all the DVDs off the internet, otherwise I won't be able to watch the shows and make notes and sort of prepare. After I'd found them all, got them all delivered, about a week after, the Sci-Fi Channel announced that they're going to have it all on demand for free.
Wow.
That was an absolute waste. Yeah, I think it's tomorrow, the 26th, as we record tomorrow, that the Sci-Fi Channel has all the Quantum Leap episodes via Sky, Virgin, whatever, available on demand. So yeah, that's a little bit of a kick in the nards there, but
I mean, it's perfect for me though to listen and watch along at the same time.
Yeah, very true.
Your loss is my gain.
I mean, season 1, I watched a bit back of already as we started, and it's a bit dated, a bit, but I'm looking forward to really getting into season 2. I think that's when the show really sort of took off. But yeah, anyway, enough about my other show. Let's talk about this one.
Then we've got some way more comments yet, so just hold your horses there, Mr. Sa.
Okay.
Scottish Danny in the chat saying Eddie, Ray, Perfect and Hot, 4 of the greatest ever. Yep, absolutely. Watching these back, it was like magic. Mrs. P, such a grump, Sa, complaining about the Olympic ceremony. And Liam saying, don't forget, this year's Olympics is the first time skateboarding has been classed as an Olympic sport. And that's when sport becomes ridiculous.
I don't get your point. But thanks for joining in.
Anya, currently got your beautiful faces on Harvey's 50 Each TV. Beautiful is a stretch, like horrific.
Yeah, I'm not sure about that.
Yeah. And the last one for now, oh boy.
Oh boy, indeed. Oh boy, indeed. To be fair, I did watch a little bit of the skateboarding that Liam mentioned not long ago. And it is pretty spectacular what they can do, isn't it?
Oh, I definitely do it.
Oh no, I stand on a skateboard. I go flying. You know, it doesn't even have to be in motion.
You look at the skateboard, and it's like, you are falling on your ass.
To be honest, the way I'm built, if I stand on a skateboard, it'd probably just break. So it would move, but it just downwards. You know,
like a V, just an instant V shape.
That's it. Yeah. So I suppose on that stage you got two then, aren't you? But you know, there we go. For our non-wrestling topic this week, we asked for dad jokes, I suppose. Cheesy, bad, anything along those lines. The sort of stereotypical dad jokes that, you know, I guess I would have heard from my father and I now pass on to my kids who absolutely love it. We've had, again, absolutely stacks of interactions from everyone online with this. I'm just so happy to see how much interactions and comments we get from everybody. It's fantastic. And Magsy, we can't thank people enough, can we, for sort of carrying the show, mate? I mean, without them, it's just us two idiots shouting into the abyss about wrestling, isn't it, really? Let's be honest. And
I mean, sometimes when we're watching terrible wrestling, this is the part that we look forward to the most. I mean, when we have drunken stories, or when we're covering movies or music or anything like that, getting other people's opinions and takes is sometimes the best part of the show. And some of these dad jokes they're so cringy that it makes them funny. So yeah, we appreciate everybody who takes part and leaves comments for us. It's really, really appreciated.
Definitely so. I'll just start rolling through them, Magsy, as we get them, shall I? The order that they arrived into us with. Our good buddy Dan Griffin had a few at Dan Griffin 21 on Twitter. Hiya, Dan. What do you call a fish with no eyes?
Such a classic.
And what do you call a man who's just finished digging? Doug. See, I heard that one before as what do you call a man with a spade on his head? Doug. Mm-hmm. And then what do you call a man without a spade on his head? Douglas. Yeah, that's how I heard that one. Dan continues, what animal has 2 grey legs and 2 brown legs? An elephant with diarrhea. Fantastic. And why is Peter Pan always flying? Because he never lands.
Hey, boom.
Fantastic. Millwall Chris. At Millwall Chris 1 on Twitter. What's red and invisible, Magsy?
No tomatoes.
No tomatoes.
I have never heard that, but
no, mate.
But a laugh with no tomatoes is a good laugh for me.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan. A big fan. No, but I mean, no tomato. Yeah, I've never heard that one before. I think this one is a bit niche. It's from Ringside Rant podcast at _Ringside Rant on Twitter. What does JETS stand for? And he says, just end the season. What sport's that? Is that American football?
Yeah. RJ is a New York Jets fan. And obviously they haven't done very well recently. So yeah, I think it's just a slat on his home team.
Right. Okay, I get you. Good Cop, Bad Cop Wrestling Podcast at Good Bad Wrestle on Twitter. He says, forget dad jokes. He wants to talk mum jokes. Every time he had a friend over and they would stay for tea, his mum would bring out, shall I make you a crocodile sandwich? And I'll make it snappy. He would cringe every time and roll his eyes. I was like, imagine, yeah. I mean, that's the sort of thing that happens now with me with the same joke over and over again. The big one for me is it happened today. I went to my middle daughter's football presentation, and there was a portaloo in the car park of the social club that we went to. So straight away, and I cannot not do it now. I can't pass a portaloo if I'm with, especially with Liv, because I know it irritates her. I can't pass a portaloo if I'm with my middle daughter, right, pointing at it and saying, "Look, it's Dr. Pooh and the TARDIS." Right, and she's the first time she thought it was hysterical, but then this must be, I don't know, time 100, I guess, and it doesn't tickle her as much as it once did, Magsy. I'm going to be honest with you there. At 5nerdsgo on Twitter, what do you call a Frenchman wearing sandals? Philippe Flop.
that is a really good one, a clever one.
That's shocking, mate. That's not good for me.
Do you not find that one funny?
No, not really. No, I don't find many of them funny unless I say them, I think, because I'm biased. 5nerdsgo podcast continues. My friend said that if he went off a cliff, it would be of his own accord. It's a good thing he drives a Civic. Now that one got me. I like that one.
that is a really good one. Yeah,
that was good. I'd like to have kids one day. I don't think I could stand them longer than that, though. Again, 5nerdsgo. Brilliant stuff. I don't know what the situation with 5nerdsgo at the moment, Magsy. Is that show on hiatus at the moment, or do you know?
It's on for now. It's on permanent hiatus. I'm hoping that they will bring it back. I think Real Life has kind of like sent them all on their own different paths, but hopefully they'll get back together and start recording again, because I missed that show. Yeah,
definitely. I've heard a few episodes, and obviously I've heard episodes where you've been a guest on there as well, and that's a shame because I think you dragged the tone down quite a bit. But it's
I mean, I don't disagree. I absolutely don't disagree.
But yeah, guys from 5nerdsgo, you missed. If you can sort it out and bring it back, that'd be awesome. Our good friend and supporter, Danny, at Scottish Juggalo on Twitter. And I want to give Danny a really special shout out here, to be honest. Hopefully he is listening or about to. Yes, there he is. There we go. Hiya, Danny. Every non-wrestling topic we put out, Danny's there. He comments, he retweets, and so on. Every wrestling topic we put out, Danny's got feedback, he retweets, he votes, everything. He is one of the biggest supporters, I think, Magsy, chain wrestling has. So I just want to say, Danny, I know we say it to everyone who gets involved with the show, everyone who interacts, everyone who listens. Without you, this wouldn't exist. It is your show. But Danny, since day one, can't fault you, my friend. And honestly, from the bottom of my heart, thank you so much, because it's guys like you that mean me and Magsy want to carry on doing this. So Absolutely. Keep it up, buddy. We really, really appreciate you. Okay.
And yeah, I totally echo everything Simon said, and I'd even go further, and I'd love for Danny to be a guest on the show and come in and join in and maybe review a wrestling match with us and just shoot the shit with us. So yeah, absolutely would love that.
Yeah, okay. I mean, maybe 3 people on this show might be a bit busy. I'll just have a week off.
You can be like the Scottish Danny. You can take over Scottish Danny's Twitter.
Yeah, okay. I want your logins, Danny. All right, send them over, mate. DM me your logins to your Twitter and whatnot, and your email, your PIN number, your mum's maiden name, and any other information you think I might need. Okay. Danny says, "What did the dryer say to the boring duvet cover that just got out the machine? Don't be such a wet blanket." That is so bad.
We take back everything we just said then, Danny.
Yeah, Danny, if you do listen back to the audio version of this, I'm going to cut that out. That's going to be gone. The Interstate Wrestling Podcast at IS Wrestle Pod on Twitter. A wrestling dad joke we've done before. Why does The Undertaker have the best streak at WrestleMania? Because he earned it. No, that does. I do like that.
Benny has come with a similar one in the chat. How did The Undertaker get a free fight deal for the UFC? He earned it.
Oh, see. Wordplay is fun. What do you call a dinosaur with no eyes? Do you think he saw us? That's an old classic, isn't it?
Yeah, and then what do you call the dog of the dinosaur with no eyes? Do you think he saw us? Rex.
Ah. They're so shit, aren't they?
They're awful. They're incredibly awful. But that's what's good about them. The fact that they are so ridiculous.
Ricky and Clive Wrestling Show at Ricky and Clive on Twitter, and this is from Clive himself. Went to the doctor the other day. to get the results from my blood work. The doctor said, okay, listen, you have hypochondria. He said, oh God, not that as well. Again, just shockingly bad.
Awfully bad, yeah.
Yes, definitely. Steve-O, at Total Steve-O on Twitter. He says, I don't do cheap dad jokes. Oh, Steve-O, you snob. What's wrong with you, mate? Come on. He says, but he coincidentally saw this at work, and he sent me a picture of a sign that he had at work, Magsy, and it says, Dad, did you get a haircut? And he says, no, I got all of them cut.
It's so terrible.
It's bad. The other one, there's a bloke who used to work with me a while back, an oldish fella, and he'd go for a haircut, and naturally he'd walk in and people go, oh, you've had a haircut. And his response always was, no, just have my ears lowered. And it was the same every single time, to the point where everyone would just be like, oh, you know? Have you got any, Magsy?
Well, on the picture that Steve sent you, there's another cheeky one in the corner.
Oh, okay.
Says, Dad, can you put my shoes on? And he says, no, because I don't think they'll fit me. But yeah, I've got a few that are ridiculous. So a man walks into a bar, says, ouch, because it's an iron bar.
Right.
How do you follow Will Smith in the snow? You follow the Fresh Prince.
That's good. I like that.
What does a tick and the Eiffel Tower have in common? They're both parasites.
I like that as well. Anything that's pun orientated, mate, that's right up my street.
And the classic one, why do you take an extra pair of socks when you go golfing? In case you get a hole in one.
Yeah, I'm genuinely trying to figure it out.
How do I work this out?
It's not like a dad joke. It's like a riddle. I'm like, ooh. I got a couple that I use myself. And the biggest one is when you get the standard from the kids about dinner time. It's like, oh, I'm hungry, and it's like, oh, I'm dad. That's the standard one. But but with 4 kids and you're doing it all the time, it kind of wears a bit thin. And the second one that I've got from my own father. I remember my dad saying this over and over again to me and my sister and my brother. Whenever we'd say, what's for tea? He just, for some stupid unknown reason, he would just respond about half an hour. And I was like, it makes no sense at all. But it used to drive us mad when we were kids because we didn't want to know what we were having for our grub. But he would just say, about half an hour, just to piss us off. Right? But now I find myself doing it. I do it now to my kids.
To wind your kids up.
Yeah, I'm in the kitchen making their tea. They come in and go, what's for tea? And I say about half an hour. You know?
See, people, abuse does go down the generations. It's taught behaviour.
Yeah, that's it. It's bred in.
It's beaten into you.
It is indeed. We got a few more in the chat popping up there, Mags, haven't we? You have a look at that, mate, because I'm still a little bit unsure as what I'm doing here.
Right, so all you have to do is click on the one you want to show up, and it shows up.
Oh, I know, but I like it when you do it.
Okay, so here we go. Benny in the chat. I always bring a piece of paper to a wrestling match just in case The Rock is my opponent.
Brilliant.
Not brilliant. Pretty poor.
You don't like that? I reckon that's all right.
It's good. It's not funny. Liam, what did the submarine say to the ship? I can see your bottom from here.
Cheeky.
Dave, Uncle Metal, I assume.
Yeah, he was messaging me earlier on. He had a bit of a session last night and a bit of grub, and he's feeling a bit jippy.
Oh, yeeks. Yes. I thought that was the punchline to a joke, but really it's the punchline to a horrific drinking session. Benny comes back with why does Randy Orton shave his body? So RKO's come out of no hair. Oh
no, come on. That's good. That's good.
Cringe, the absolute cringe. Anya said, I spoke to Uncle Metal about when he kissed a homeless man, and he said, and quote, I gave him 20 quid as I felt sorry for him, then had a snog. So he didn't pay for a kiss, apparently.
That goes back to our story from was it last week or the week before? Another hideous Dave tale from when we were out drinking. I think it was the Man of War show, wasn't it? So, yeah, that's right. Charlie liked the Rock joke.
John Cena gets knocked out during a wrestling match. 3 hours later, he wakes up in a hospital. John, slowly, where am I? The nurse, I see you. John, no, you can't. Oh, Benny. Kids, I'm hungry. Dad, I'm Finland. I mean, that
countries.
Liam, why should you always carry a box of tissues when golfing in case you get a bogey? That is brilliant. I love that one.
That's good. Well done, boy.
And then Anya giving Uncle Methel more grief, saying, "Have you snogged any more homeless men?" I mean, if he's been on the session, it's quite likely.
Yeah, very much so. Very much so. And that one there, my youngest, Charlie liked the Rock joke. So well done, Benny.
and just to get some finality on that story, he's banned from kissing homeless people.
I think you should be, to be honest.
Yeah.
I think, it's not good form.
It sounds like you are a menace.
Indeed. Speaking, and this is going to sound really weird now, Magsy. This is going to sound really weird now, right? But speaking of bogies, right? I had to do one of these. It's called a lateral flow test last night.
Okay.
You know, the stick, and you got to put it up your nose and your mouth and whatnot. Like, I had a bit of a tickly throat, a bit of a cough. I was feeling a bit under. I feel fine now, but last night for some reason I had a bit of a time where I felt a bit rough. So the wife said, like, you should do one of these because we're going to Liv's football presentation this afternoon. And first of all, I went to go put it up my nose first, and the wife was like, "No, you do your mouth first. Then because you don't want to put, take it out your nose and put it in your mouth, do you? Do you know what I mean? It's like that sort of thing." But then a funny question sort of came up.
I would have let you just roll with that. I would have let you just go, "Yeah, go on, you crack on," and then just watch it, taste it.
Yeah, but the thing is, then I just had like a glass of lemonade, right? And I'm not very good, when the people were talking about various things on a previous issue, I was gagging a bit, wasn't I? I'm not very good with that sort of thing. So I got this stick with a little thing on the end, and I sort of started putting it down my throat, and I basically made myself throw the lemonade back up. Like literally just that. It's like a little button. I must have touched it, and out it came. So then, of course, I've got the choice. Then, what do I do? Because I've got the stick. I think I got it out of the way in time, so I carried on with my test. But then I was laughing and joking with the kids and that. And because I went to put it up my nose first before my mouth, and I was stopped. But then I put it in my gob, and I was ill a bit. And then it had to go. What would you rather? Stick up your nose or some bogies in your mouth?
I'd rather just throw that stick away and get a fresh one. Because you know
what? That's what I should have done.
You're either going to eat bogey or you're going to smell vomit for the rest of the day. So,
well, no, you blow your nose after, wouldn't you?
I know, but you'd still smell it. It's like when you have like bacon flavored crisp. You might have swallowed them, but you always get that that flavor every time you burp. So it'd be the same if you sniffed up. You'd always have that essence of vomit.
Yes. It's just a funny question that tickled me yesterday.
This is a wrestling show. I know we have to keep reiterating it, but this is actually a human wrestling show.
It is indeed. You may notice as well that we've kind of blitzed through our non-wrestling topic relatively quickly this week. The reason being, obviously, we have 2 wrestling matches to cover, which are going to obviously take a little bit longer than covering one. So unless there's anything else we want to look at, Magsy, shall we talk a little wrestling?
Yeah, let's go for it.
Okie doke.
And let me just find the
let's get ready to rumble.
Okie doke. So the winner of this week's poll was both of us, neither of us, each of us.
I like to think that we are both winners.
We're both winners. Yeah, that's it. I'm not sure.
That sounded so patronizing.
I'm not sure the rest of the world would agree, but I'm going with it, Mags. I'm going with it. Yeah, so we had the options for the poll were Bret Hart versus Mr. Perfect from SummerSlam 1991 for the Intercontinental Championship, and Eddie Guerrero versus Rey Mysterio from Halloween Havoc 1997. Mask versus title for the Cruiserweight Championship. Two brilliant contests, but watching them back, two brilliant contests for very much different reasons, Magsy. And the poll obviously ended a draw, so we're going to discuss both, and I imagine there's going to be moments where we compare the two afterwards, even though it shouldn't really make much of a difference to our ratings, I guess. But where would you like to start, my friend?
Let's start in time order. Let's go with SummerSlam 1991.
I'm very glad you said that, because that's the order my notes are in. I ain't got to go ferreting around the pages.
Great minds think alike.
And idiots agree, my friend. I really enjoyed this match, Bret Hart versus Mr. Perfect. I've not seen it back. I know you have, for covering it for that 90s wrestling podcast that you do the old pay-per-view reviews on. I've not seen this match back for quite a while. And I did really enjoy the match back. It's Madison Square Garden. It's SummerSlam 1991. The first thing that hit me was how early in the show this match was actually on. I didn't realize it was because it's like the second contest, isn't it?
Yeah, I think there's the multi-man first, and then it goes straight into this. Yeah, and you get a bit of a Mr. Perfect interview beforehand. How good of a guy on the mark was he? I mean, before we get to the wrestling, Sean Mooney literally just has to put the mark in front of him, and he attempts to ask questions, but Perfect's like, shut up, bitch, I've got this. And just goes into a brilliant kind of harp for the match, talking about excellence of execution versus perfection, and how Bret is the greatest wrestler ever, but he's not perfect. Oh, he just sold you. And then you had that fucking idiot coach blowing that stupid whistle. He was the guy who essentially brought Perfect into the WWF. When you were getting the vignettes of him throwing an American football and then running
catching his own pass, and that wasn't it?
Yeah, and hitting like 3-pointers all the time and stuff like that. So it was that guy. He's not really there for that long. We just have to put up with him for a little bit. But the whistle was annoying.
Yes, yeah, I get that with what's his name? The fella who was manager for Sabu and Rob Van Dam in ECW. He was a WWF referee for a while. Yes.
Bill Alfonso.
Yeah, I get that. It's just the whistle, just irritating. You know, just pack it in. Why'd you do it? Do you know what I mean? Yes, Dave, 100%. He was unreal. And this match showed it, didn't it? I mean, again, I took the opportunity to watch both these matches back today, back to back. And I sat my youngest down with me to watch them with me. And this is always a great big thing for me, watching old wrestling back with my daughter, as I've mentioned on previous shows before, because I've seen these matches before. Some of them years and years ago, some of them very recently. Some I have fonder memories than others. Sometimes your memory plays tricks on you and you remember it in different ways than it actually is. So having Charlie there, my youngest, to watch the matches back with me, having never seen these before, is always really interesting, getting her viewpoint. And she enjoyed both of these contests very much, and I'll get more to her thoughts when we've spoken about both of them. But we ended up having a conversation about what we were referring to as actual real wrestling, as in on the mat, hold for hold, counter for counter, and so on, which is kind of what you got with these two guys here, because you don't see masses of that in some of the wrestling that you watch present day, do you?
Yeah, I think it just goes to show the subjectivity of wrestling and what was seen as the pinnacle of wrestling in the early 90s has kind of changed now. You don't see this because wrestling is so quick paced now, and it's kind of like snapping. It's always on to the next big move, and wrestlers always have to kind of do something that makes them stand out. So they're not just one extra wrestler in the group, where going back to matches like this and re-watching some of the classics makes you appreciate just where wrestling has come from, the art of the chain wrestling, the art of the technical skill, and being able to kind of work a crowd off the most the smallest amount of moves. I mean, in this match, we get a full sequence just about headlocks and about hairs being pulled, and it's so engrossing. You really kind of get suckered into the match. And if you watched any other two wrestlers doing a headlock move, that's seen as a piss break. That's seen as, come on, speed it up. But with these two, it just worked perfectly.
Yeah, without a doubt. And that's kind of how the match starts, isn't it? With the headlock exchanges. Hello, Connor.
Hello, Connor, sir.
The headlock exchanges, the sort of hip tosses onto the mat as well. And as you said, Max, about the hair pulling back and forth and so on. It almost to me starts slower than I would expect for some reason. I don't know why. I don't know how, I can't explain that train of thought really, but sat watching it back, I don't remember it starting as slow as this. But I think that's because the ending is basically that they build towards the finish, don't they? And the ending is much quicker than the start of the match. I'm thinking maybe that's what I remember looking back potentially. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it absolutely makes sense. This is the epitome of building to a crescendo match. Two of at this time, two of the best wrestlers, not only in the company but in the world in terms of technical groundwork and skill. So having that first 5-10 minutes or so of them showing off just how good they were, not only as technical wrestlers but as storytellers. I really enjoyed the slow build. Obviously, knowing that I've watched it pretty recently, and I can remember how it does build to that crescendo, and it gets more and more heated, and it becomes more and more aggressive, and it's a really well told story and a really well planned out match. Yeah.
There's another moments where you get sort of both guys are kicking their opponents off them as they're led on the mat. They're taking it in turns to do that. Perfect ends up getting his ring gear basically ripped in half, but I don't think he notices at first because he tries to put the strap back on, doesn't he? And then he sort of looks and goes, "Oh, you know,
fuck it."
Yeah, he gets quite cross about that, doesn't he? There's also the sort of backstory here with regards to Mr. Perfect, Kurt Henning's injury problems. He's got a long-term back issue, and I think you mentioned last week he actually had a broken bone, Mags.
Yeah, and I didn't actually know this until like researching for the That 90s Wrestling podcast, and it just adds to just how good of a ring general Mr. Perfect was at the time. He had a broken coccyx in this match, and now obviously everybody knows the coccyx, the essentially the monkey bone at the bottom of the spine. So you imagine all the kind of backdrops and atomic drops, and even things moves involving the legs, like the sharpshooter, are all going to put pressure on that broken bone. And first of all, he never shows it. You never see him kind of acknowledge that he's got an issue. And then second of all, it's such a clean, crisp, just beautifully wrestled match that you wouldn't think there was anything wrong with him at all. And like I said, he had a history of back problems. I mean, he had to retire once because of an insurance policy, and he wasn't allowed to wrestle because of back problems, and yet he's able to go and do a match as good as this. And this is at a time when Brett is not really the Brett that we know and love from his world title reigns. This is still a Brett who's still really relatively new to the WWF, still on that kind of learning curve. And the way that these two just had that chemistry, it was so good. Two brilliant wrestlers, kind of like catching lightning in a bottle twice. It's such a good match.
Yeah, I mean, what was this? This is obviously the summer of '91. That'd have been WrestleMania 7, wouldn't it? 91. The Hart Foundation still together at WrestleMania 7? I think they were, weren't they? Oh, they dropped the titles at WrestleMania 7, didn't they? They dropped the titles for nasty ones.
This is when Bret Hart goes on his first real major singles run.
Yeah, so you're looking at there's only a couple of months into his first real sort of big time singles career, and this is obviously his first singles title win. So you look at it from that standpoint, he is, I suppose, relatively a novice at this level. I mean, he's done it in other companies. Obviously, he's been out to Japan. He's wrestled for his dad's company, but on this national stage, without maybe the safety net of being in a tag team, it is a different world, I think, Max, isn't it?
Yeah, but I think he looked every ounce the superstar in this match, and the stuff that he goes on to do later on in his career. And look at a year later on, he carries British Bulldog, who is whacked off his tree. He carries him to one of the greatest matches of all time. So it just shows how much of a natural talent Bret Hart actually was. For all his kind of misgivings in the way he kind of believed wrestling was real and stuff like that. In terms of in-ring, he's among the greatest.
Yeah, I reckon so. We got...
Here we go. Yes, my internet has been sorted. Sa, again, not paying his Virgin bill. Brilliant.
I'm back.
So...
Did I go again?
You certainly did. Told you. Drill a hole in a 50p, tie a bit of string round it, slot it in the meter, and then pull it back out. Brilliant. Went again.
Oh, for goodness sake, this is driving me batty. Absolute waste of freaking money, this lot. Okay, can you hear me okay now, Magsy? Can you hear me okay now?
You are fine. Let's get into this match again.
Yes, okay. There's a few brilliant moments where, for example, both wrestlers are on the ropes, and you're looking at, I wish I could. We're looking at, they're both on the top rope, and they're both kind of tying up with each other and fighting, but they're not in your traditional sort of superplex position. You've got one on the outside of the ropes on one side of the turnbuckle, the other on the outside, and they both kind of just tumble and slide into the ring more than anything, don't they? As opposed to, and that was quite a spectacular spot, I think, because of the bump didn't look natural. It didn't look like a normal fall, if you know what I mean. Especially knowing how much pain Mr. Perfect is in, that to me really took my breath away.
Yeah, and it's not long after that we hear one of the many quips by Heenan. I think Gorilla mentions that a DQ would save the title for Perfect, and then he says, "Okay, then hit him," which is brilliant. There's one a little bit earlier where they're focusing on Stu and Helen Hart, and Heenan says that they look concerned because they've snuck into the arena. Which he's just superb.
Yeah, he's fantastic, isn't he?
Him and Gorilla, and obviously with Roddy Piper on commentary as well, really kind of in Brett's corner, which is ironic considering that they end up fighting for the title later on down the line. I think the commentary really adds to how good this match are. Yeah,
which it needs to do. It's what the commentators are there to do, isn't it? We said before how important good commentary can be. And on the flip side of that, how much of a negative poor commentary can be. It kind of takes away from what you're watching in the ring. Mr. Perfect at one stage looks like he's going for almost a New Japan style sling blade. But he's actually catching it hard to put him in a sleeper. I didn't realize he was putting him in a sleeper until literally the sleeper was on. I didn't see that coming at all with the way he sort of positioned himself and threw himself around Brett's body as he came off the ropes and so on. I thought that was fantastic.
How crisp, how crisp that was. It very reminded me a lot of when The Rock used to do his kind of a float over DDT, where he essentially threw himself around the wrestler's body and then hit the DDT, but to nail in the sleeper, and then for Hart to go for the pin off that, and then get essentially put in a Samoan drop some really crisp work. And then we get the classic Bret Hart sternum first turnbuckle bump, which every time you see it looks absolutely brutal. We get an attempt at a perfect plex. Bret kicks out. Apparently, according to Heenan, he's the first ever person to have kicked out of the perfect plex. So more history for chain wrestling there.
Yeah, I don't think that's right though, is it? Hogan kicked out, didn't he?
I know, but you're telling me WWF don't manipulate history for their own benefit, sir? How dare you?
They change the past to their own narrative, don't they? Hey, they're little fibbers.
Didn't they once say that Edge invented the Money in the Bank match recently? I think it was Edge.
Yeah, I think so. I think so. It was Jericho who had a hand in it, as opposed to because that was the whole thing. Jericho was talking about it on Twitter as well, wasn't he? Yeah, they just that gets on your nerves. But they did always invent wrestling, and they invented women's wrestling, and they invented tag wrestling. Without the WWE, nothing happened before 1963. There was nothing. But,
Five nerds in the chat. Justice for Whisper Gold. No, Whisper Golds are a marketing play, and you've all been suckered in. But we were talking about you earlier, Matt. We want Five Nerds back, so hashtag bring back Five Nerds.
Why Whisper Gold marketing play?
So going way off topic now, but
it wouldn't be chain wrestling if we didn't do that, mate.
It wouldn't. But MGB has put one of his kind of controversial food takes onto Twitter, and it was a sausage with crumbled up bits of Kinder Bueno in.
Okay.
So there was two camps. There was this is revolting, you absolute animals, or that sounds interesting, I'd try that. So it got back to Paul Toller, who is a stickler for his weird food takes. So I said he wouldn't try this because the crunchy bits of the Kinder Bueno would hurt his poor little gums.
Okay, right.
So then they were talking about how about a Whisper Gold inside a sausage. UTT Rob said, how about a sausage inside a Whisper Gold instead? And just a ridiculous kind of flow of conversation. So go and check out MGB Graham's Twitter feed for that. But I said, Whisper Gold are a marketing ploy for you to essentially buy fresh air as half of your chocolate bar. And I got some backlash for that, for saying...
I like Whisper Gold, mate.
Well, you would, because you've been brainwashed by the men at Cadbury's and at Roundtree to believe that you should pay for fresh air. So no, Whisper Gold, Aeros, even flakes. Essentially, flakes are nice.
Oh my god!
The fact that it's not solid chocolate, you are paying for fresh air. So,
but you're paying for the texture. You're paying for those bubbles. You're paying for that texture.
Well, yeah, but those bubbles are full of free, fresh air. Breathe in before buying your chocolate. There you go. The same ingredients.
Oh, for crying out loud. Anyway, as the match carries on, we have Bret. Yeah, well, we said about Bret kicking out the perfect plex. What have we got here?
Well, that was Five Nerds saying, at least we realised we'd stopped. It took Graham until Thursday this week to realise, despite him liking our goodbye tweet, the expletive. Going back to the match, Scottish Danny saying that sleeper was phenomenal. Agreed, Si. Yeah, it was.
Totally.
These guys were way above the curve when it comes to wrestling in the 90s.
I mean, that's a really good point, because you look at the main event here. You've got Hogan and Warrior versus Slaughter, Adnan, and Colonel Mustafa. Is that his name?
Colonel Mustafa.
Yeah.
Iron Sheik.
Yeah. And it's a different world to what we're watching here. Mm-hmm. It's completely different levels of ability and in-ring ability and so on. Just night and day. It really is. Bret goes for the sharpshooter after a little while here, but that irritating whistle-blowing coach man jumps on the apron. And of course, naturally, because, you know, it is what it is, this distracts Brett to the point where he lets go of his submission hold that could potentially win him the championship to go and walk across the ring to encounter Coach because wrestling. And he hits Coach off the apron. And whilst this is happening, Perfect jumps up, kicks the middle rope, which Brett is straddling, which obviously gives him a low blow. And you think then, okay, Brett's in trouble now. Mr. Perfect starts hitting leg drops, effectively between Brett's legs. He's lifting Brett's legs up, looking like he's going for a sharpshooter of his own, but he's dropping leg drops down effectively onto his spuds.
Yeah, kind of similar in a way to one that Jeff Hardy does.
Yeah. And then something I've not really seen before since.
It's so good. It's so good.
That he goes for the leg drop again. Brett catches his leg and turns it into a kind of 3/4, maybe turned sharpshooter, but all in one motion. And it was just, just sat there like, wow. And Charlie again sat next to me, my youngest, just sat there just looking at, that was amazing. You know, just so good. And that basically gives you your finish. Brett wins the IC title by submission very, very quickly. Because obviously we know Mr. Perfect's in a great deal of pain anyway. He doesn't want to be sat around in a sharpshooter for too long. And Brett celebrates, goes up to see his mum and dad. And Lord Alfred Hayes is up there, isn't he, already? Trying to get a word with Brett's dad. And he is, and to quote my daughter, he is blanking him.
This is always tickled me. Lord Alfred Hayes is there. I just want to try and get some words from Stuart, and Stu's like, okay, then what do you want me to say? And then he's like, no, but he's too busy. He's just overcome with what he's like. He's literally tried to talk to you. Then you ignored him, and then he went back to hugging the family. It was a great moment for Brett. Essentially the start of his amazing singles career.
Yeah, definitely. Really, really good match. I thoroughly enjoyed watching it back. I suppose we should do ratings for this one now, Magsy, before we get on to our second contest, I guess.
I mean, we can do that. It seems sensible. Just before we do, I'm getting some grief from the Powell family here in the chat. I'm not best pleased with this, but Mrs. P, because it's full of air, does that mean I can eat too? That's the Little Britain diet. If you half the calories, just eat twice as much. And then Anya, Mags, are you okay? Never seen anybody get angry over chocolate. I don't even really eat a lot of chocolate, to be fair. I've not really got that much of a sweet tooth. I just don't want to pay for fresh air. Half of a chocolate bar just sucked in right there. Half of an Aero. There we go.
Okay, you got some strong opinions on some weird shit. You know
that? I have got many hills I choose to die on.
Perhaps that's a non-wrestling topic for the future. Again, we'll have to touch on that, I think. Maxie, where do you rate this then out of 10, my friend? To me, a bit of a funny one because it starts quite slow but ends fantastic. Where do you rate this, buddy?
Yeah, it's an outstanding match. I think Uncle Dave gave it 4 1/4, which absolutely makes sense. The fact it's not high on the card, and it just seems to be, maybe it hasn't got that much importance, but in the annals of history, this is an absolutely brilliant match. Knowing that Perfect was very, very physically injured, knowing what Bret Hart goes on to be in the future, I rate this match really, really highly. So I have no problems giving this an 8.5.
Oh, okay, as high as that. Okay. For me, I think I'm going to go a touch lower. I really stop inhaling your chocolate bars.
Delicious mint Aero.
I really enjoy it. Don't get me wrong. I really enjoyed this match. They told a fantastic story. Crazily enough, being 1991, 30 years ago, there's a couple of things in this match that I've not seen since. The leg drop counter into the sharpshooter, I think, was really innovative and unique. and a few other moments as well that I thought were just absolutely brilliant. And these are two guys who I think Mr. Perfect in 91 was probably at the pinnacle of his career. After this, he was never quite the same performer in WCW. He had a little run in the WWF in 92-ish when he came back and tagged with Savage at Survivor Series. He was never quite the same performer again. I think this is kind of the end of top level Mr. Perfect. I mean, he was still good enough, don't get me wrong, but this was, to me, the end of the great Curt Hennig. But it did start slower than I remember. And it was building to this crescendo, of course, and that's part of the storytelling. So I think I'm going to go slightly lower and probably give it an 8, I think. Just looking at ratings that we've given other matches and what's coming up that we're going to discuss in a moment is also in the back of my mind as well.
So telegraphing your rating for the next match. Oh,
well, yeah. I mean, like I said, I watched them back to back. I mean, we'll probably discuss it when we do the ratings for the next one after this discussion. But yeah, watching them back to back may not have done this match a favor with regards to pace and so on. But we'll get to that in a moment, mate. We'll get to that in a moment. Yeah. So that's the first option on the poll. I mean, and as we said before,
8 is a perfectly adequate score for me. It's for me, it just felt a little bit more important than an 8, so that's why it gets that extra half a mark. But yeah, I understand an 8.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, the first half of the poll, and the poll was a draw. So for the first time ever, we're now going to discuss
in the making.
Yeah, yes, you lucky people. We're now going to discuss our second match on the poll, and this was Eddie Guerrero versus Rey Mysterio from Halloween Havoc 1997, the WCW event there, and it was Eddie's Cruiserweight Championship on the line, as well as Rey Mysterio's mask. If he lost this title match, he would have to remove his mask. I think this shows how far wrestling has come in the 6 years from 91 to here. Both are brilliant matches that we looked at, but for very different reasons. And the pace of this match, I think, right from the off, really sort of, to me, shows how far we've come along in that short space of time, Max. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. It does. The whole kind of lucha Latino influence in the WCW really championed at this time, even though they get a lot of grief for maybe putting the cruiserweights as fillers and as not really putting much importance in terms of storylines and in terms of position on the card. You always knew that the luchas would bring it on WCW. It's what it really kind of it got a big name for. The first thing that really stood out to me was actually before the match even started, when both guys walked down to the ring, just how small and how slab and slim that these two guys were.
Yeah.
I mean, I've been openly honest. I didn't watch a lot of WCW at the time. So I remember Ray and Eddie from being in the WWE most of the time, and it's always been the land of the giants. And even though they're two relatively small wrestlers in terms of height, they bulked up in the WWE. Ray looks like he's carved out of granite during his main run, and the same with Eddie. Whereas in this, they look wiry. They look like luchador wrestlers.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I mean, Eddie, he looks like there's not an ounce of fat on him, doesn't he? And he saunters down to the ring, so arrogant, so cocky,
so smarmy.
You just want to slap him, don't you? It's brilliant stuff, you know.
And he's got that perfect mullet, the business at the front, party at the back style mullet. Yeah, he just looks like he thinks his shit doesn't stink.
Yeah, and I think Guerrero. Obviously, everyone ends up loving Eddie Guerrero. In WWE, he has a great run, and we have the title matches there, and he wins the big one, and so on. And the match we discussed last week as well. And he's a fan favorite at this stage. But to me, this Eddie Guerrero, to coin your phrase, Max, smarmy Eddie Guerrero, you know, this to me is Eddie at his best. I think this is like he was so good at just being a dick.
Yeah.
You know,
an arrogant dick.
Yeah, exactly. The match starts really fast, as we said. They're in the air early. They're flipping around all over the place. Straight off the bat, it's almost like they've been told, "Okay, here's how much time you've got," and they've both gone right. Yeah, we're going to fit in everything we possibly can, and they do. You get so much in this. What is it? Is it 17 minutes ish or something like that? Isn't it, Max?
I think it's less than that. I think it's about 13, maybe.
Okay. But yeah, they just cram so much in. And they're flying all over the place. Eddie sends Ray into the steps early on the outside. We see counters.
Yeah, the spot that just before Ray gets slammed into the stairs, that was almost like a botch that Ray was able to kind of counter on the fly. It looks like he's going for a kind of like a splash over the top ropes, and maybe his feet get kind of trapped on the rope, so he's able to kind of change his body position so he doesn't fall. He lands on his feet on the apron. It's just
unreal.
It's unreal that he had that kind of that skill and that control to know that something had looked like it gone wrong. I mean, he may have planned it for all we know. I mean, Rey Mysterio is so innovative when it comes to wrestling offense. But for me, it looked like his legs caught the rope and he had to make a split decision of how do I not kill myself, and lands on his feet like a cat. It's just so damn good.
Yeah, just unbelievable. With regards to that as well, there's a moment where I don't even know the start of the spot, but Ray ends up effectively in the air, and Eddie catches him and turns it into a suplex. But he's really high. He's not like coming down as you'd expect from a suplex. Mysterio is really. It looks like he's going to just spike him on the top of his head, but he turns at the last minute, and it ends up looking brutal, but at the same time perfectly safe and fantastic. And again, it's testament to me of how talented both of these guys were. Obviously, they must have worked together God knows how many times at this stage. This is 97. They've both been AAA they worked for, someone I think at one stage. And they sort of been out in Japan, the pair of them. You know, they've wrestled each other, I imagine, plenty of times. But here, it's like all of these factors have just come together in like a perfect storm for this particular match. And Ray is so popular, and Eddie is, as we said, such a dick. The crowd are massively into it as well by the time they get to the finish, Mags, aren't they?
Yeah, and it's always amazed me with lucha wrestling, just how. I mean, when you compare it to traditional Western wrestling, you can see where there is opportunity for wrestlers to call spots and kind of like talk with each other and guide each other through a match. With the pace that, especially with these two, with the pace that this goes, how they are able to communicate what's going on and the moves and make it look so clean and crisp. You would either have to have a memory second to none, or you just go with the flow. And I think that's what happens with these two. They have so much kind of natural chemistry that it's almost like a sixth sense of. They know what each of them is going to do at what point, and to pull off these amazing feats of wrestling. It's just absolutely phenomenal stuff. It's awe-inspiring. It really is. Yeah,
and it's not also. I mean, if nobody's if anyone out there has not seen this match before, I strongly recommend you go and check it out. I mean, you will have anyway, because obviously everyone out there is following the chain along. You're watching the match before you come on the show. Of course you are. If you've not seen it before, I strongly suggest you go and check this out, Halloween Havoc 1997, because it's not just lucha, flippy, high-flying stuff. They're wrestling as well. They're brawling as well. The brawling, it looks brutal. It looks like they genuinely hate each other and they're smacking the crap out of each other.
Yeah, it's certainly not just a spot show. There are spots. Don't get me wrong. There are some amazing spots. These guys are both amazingly talented, but you can tell that there is there is animosity in this story. There's one point where Eddie's ripping at the mask from Ray, and you see like the top half of Ray's face out under the mask. So there's definitely tension in there, and there's some heavy strikes, but from both guys. There's a lovely spot coming towards the end where Ray gets tossed into the corner, and he gets caught in the tree of war. I thought he was going to essentially fall on his head in the corner.
Yeah, he kind of caught himself, didn't he? That was amazing.
And it caught the rope and the kind of like the bolt that attaches the rope to the post with his feet before he hit the ground. It's just phenomenal. Phenomenal.
Yep. Just incredible stuff. I mean, we also see the Gory special. That's what it's called, isn't it? With the Eddie's dad, isn't it? Gory Guerrero, was that his dad? He got him on his back and he's holding him there. There's also a unique, I suppose, kind of he's stretching him. He's got his arm hooked. Eddie, has got Rey Mysterio's arm hooked, and then with his other arm, he's got his leg hooked, and his knee is in his ribs, sort of stroked back, and he's kind of bending him around his knee. That was quite unique as well. But it wasn't like these were rest holds. It wasn't like this was an opportunity for these guys to take a break, so to speak, from the frantic, high-paced action that they've been putting on display for everybody. These moves looked like these were wrestling moves. These were moves that he was genuinely trying to force a submission. And you said it there, Magsy, about the ripping of the mask. That was in a abdominal stretch. And that little touch just added so much viciousness to that move that when done by other people, sometimes it can come across a bit lethargic, a bit lazy, a bit boring because I just stood there. But Eddie's fire there and commitment to the whole gimmick of I despise this little bastard and ripping at his mask. It's like I think it really contributed, you know?
Yeah. And even if you thought of an abdominal stretch as a rest hold, the way that they link and chain their wrestling together, I mean, from that abdominal stretch, Eddie turns that into a backbreaker. You don't normally see that kind of thing. It's normally abdominal stretch, maybe a 5 count, somebody uses the ropes to cheat, and then we let go. These link moves together. It's almost like seamless the way he went from the abdominal stretch into the backbreaker for the near fall. It's just amazing wrestling. Just so super talented.
There was an absolutely vicious looking power bomb as well at one stage from Guerrero on Mysterio. He gets really high, and then when he brings him down onto the mat, there's just proper venom in that as he slams him down, and then stacks him really high for the pin to the point where it looked like he wasn't going to be able to escape that at the 2. But ultimately he does. Just so much going on. I mean, Eddie Guerrero goes for the frog splash, misses that, but even the sight of him flying through the air on a missed attempt looked incredible. And I suppose we kind of come to the finish then, Magsy, don't we?
Yeah, the attempt at the razor's edge, essentially, by Eddie Guerrero, which is countered into a Hurricane Rana, and Ray ekes out the victory. And then we feel the kind of joy with Ray. He comes up to the camera and he's like, "This is what this title means to me. I'm so happy." And then Eddie Guerrero just has to be the spoil sport and just clocks him just because he's lost. It's brilliant. A brilliant end to an amazing contest. And it perfectly fitted in with both characters. Ray was the ultimate babyface, as he's been in the majority of his career. You really kind of was happy that he won the title. And Eddie was the salty, bitchy, I've just lost. Well, enjoy this wallop.
Yeah.
It was a brilliant end. I loved it.
So good. So good. Again, WCW at this time, I mean, this is October 97, but we're sort of talking mid 96 when Scott Hall shows up. It's a bit ropey then, but when the NWO starts really getting going through to 98, early 98, the Cruiserweight division is everyone remembers the NWO storyline. Everyone remembers Hogan turning and the black and white and all that sort of stuff. But WCW is so much more than that. If you look beyond that, the Cruiserweight division was phenomenal. Dean Malenko, Jericho was there for a while, Guerrero, just so many incredible matches. And if anyone's unfamiliar with this, again, use the network, whatever, go back and have a look on just random episodes of Nitro. They'd normally start with a cruiserweight match, or most pay-per-views would start with a cruiserweight match. Go and check out these contests, because even now, some 20 odd years later or whatever it is, they still stand up as really, really good today.
Yeah, absolutely. And the roster that they had was stacked. I mean, you're talking like Billy Kidman, Shane Helms, Shannon Moore. They had some amazingly talented cruiserweights, and it's just such a shame that it wasn't given the focal point of that it should have been, because that could have turned the tide. That could have been something that you build a company around, because these were a lot of the times the most excited that fans got in terms of the matches, especially coming towards the end of WCW. It was this match. It's a blueprint to how good cruiserweight wrestling can be.
Yeah, without a doubt, it's absolutely superb. So, Magsy, where do we New World Organization? A little bit of a story behind that. When we covered the Bash at the Beach 96 main event a couple of weeks back, my wife Sharon saw the end of the match with me, saw Hogan's promo, and obviously he says New World Organization as opposed to Order. So now she's just referring to the NWO as the New World Organization, because she knows it boils my piss. But there we go. Never mind. I'm going to be the bigger man and just try to ignore it. Whereabouts do you rate this then, Magsy, my friend? How out of 10 are we thinking for this crazy high-paced match?
Yeah, I think I may have telegraphed my score as well by the fact that this is the blueprint. If you want to have a great cruiserweight match, emulate this match, because it is 14 minutes of just fast-paced, perfect wrestling. Even when there are slight issues in terms of what you could call botches, they make changes on the fly to make it look like that's exactly what they're meant to do. Rey Mysterio has always been super talented, really kind of, like I said earlier, innovative. And I don't think he's had a better partner than Eddie Guerrero in terms of getting the best out of each other. It's stupendous, this match, absolutely stupendous. And I'm going to rate it higher than Perfect and Bret Hart. I'm going to give this a 9.5.
Oh, see, I'll tell you what, we're there, like the difference in the two, because I'm going for a 9. So it's exactly a point difference between the two contests for the both of us. 9.5 is huge, because obviously 10 is the best we can give. Don't get me wrong. Obviously, that's obvious. But, obviously that's obvious. That was a great saying. That's the title of the episode. That's what's going to be called. But yeah, 9, I think, for me, because it is amazing. It is absolutely amazing. But I still don't think it's perfect. I still don't think it's as good as maybe, I can't remember what I gave Omega Okada, but I think that was better. So that's kind of my mindset. It's up there. It's right up there, but it's not quite the best we've ever seen, if that makes sense, Max.
Yeah, I agree. Omega versus Okada 4 will probably be my favorite match till the end of time. It's just artistic in the way it's laid out, but this is probably as close as we got to seeing something on the same level.
That is until the glorious return of CM Punk, and we see Omega versus Punk sometime in the next couple of months, mate. Oh yes, it's happening. See. Oh, I'm gonna be like a 13-year-old girl that'll take that concert. I swear to God.
Kenny Omega versus Punk versus Bryan Danielson in a triple threat could be a potential.
Oh my word! I don't. I'm gonna need to grab a cold shower. We keep talking like this. Okay then, Magsy. Is there anything else you want to touch upon or anything else you want to cover before we get to our options for next week?
We've got a couple more comments here in the chat, and again, I want to
do not click on 5 Nerds Go. Do not don't bring that one up.
I just want to say again, you guys made the show. We were very concerned about taking this live, whether it would work, whether we were just shouting into the ether, and you guys have really come out and support us, and we appreciate that from the bottom of our hearts. You guys are absolutely amazing, and you make this show way better than it should be. But it's time for a link. Where does the chain go next? So we've watched 4 amazing wrestlers, both together and in other matches. These guys have set the bar and have been you could easily say that these are 4 wrestlers that are on a Mount Rushmore. They're that good. But 2 of them were really kind of languished. They were stuck in kind of purgatory in WCW. So I'm obviously talking about Eddie and Ray. Mm-hmm. There was a glass ceiling there, unfortunately, for the luchadors, for the cruiserweights. So to make it big, you had to go to the WWF or WWE. And both these guys went on and became the world champion, became the top of the business. That's in WWE. But there was somebody else who kind of made that leap before them.
Okay.
Similar kind of a situation where they felt they were kind of underutilized. There was a glass ceiling. They tried their best to kind of get that push into being a big star, but just could never break out because wrestlers didn't want to give up their spots. The management of Eric Bischoff didn't see in them what they saw in themselves. And this wrestler didn't really go on to do much. He only ended up becoming one of the best in the world, Le Champion, a little bit of the bubbler, the Painmaker.
Your all-time favorite.
Yeah. So I want to go back to Chris Jericho. Jericho, again, like Sai said, is one of my favorites. His entrance into the WWF when he came out and interrupted The Rock, it will always be my favorite introduction of a wrestler, always my favorite debut. But this guy broke history in the WWF, just like we broke history today with this episode. So the amount of links, it has to be this pick.
Entwined all the way through.
Yeah. He was the first ever undisputed WWF champion, Did you know that? And that happened at Vengeance 2001.
Yeah.
When on the same night, he beat The Rock and then Stone Cold Steve Austin to become both the world and the WWF champion. So I want to, following on from this episode, I want to do another double watch where we watch Chris Jericho beat The Rock and then beat Stone Cold Steve Austin to become the first undisputed champion.
It's kind of just one match goes straight into the other, doesn't it? It's kind of a continuation of...
Essentially, yeah. Because Jericho stays in the ring, but yeah, that's where I want to go.
I think you've been a bit
2001.
I think you've been a bit cheeky there, Mags, and you're trying to sneak in an extra match on top of the match. You're trying to get The Rock, Austin, and Jericho all involved in this one little...
No, that's spurious. I refute that claim.
Oh dear. Okay, so Mags's option is Chris Jericho facing it was The Rock first, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, essentially the 3 matches were, I think, were Stone Cold faced Kurt Angle, beat him. Jericho faced The Rock, and then it was Jericho versus Austin at the end.
Yeah. So it's the main event of Vengeance 2001, where the 2 world titles effectively get unified. The undisputed championship they become after the merger of, well, not merger, but after WWE took over WCW and you had all these extra titles hanging around. Jericho versus The Rock, which then very quickly turns into Jericho versus Austin to unify the championships for the main event from Vengeance 2001. I think I've seen this once, and I think I saw it live when it happened. So that would be very, very interesting for me to go back and take a look at that one, I think, Max. I don't think I've seen that since it happened.
Some 20 years ago as well. I think it was December the 9th, 2001. So 20 years this year.
Yes. Yeah. So I'm going to be looking forward to that if it wins, my friend. But I'm going to try and stop it winning with my choice. And I'm going to go back to my wheelhouse. The
arena.
No. Actually, I'm not. I'm going to use the event this time. But I'm going to go back to my wheelhouse being old school NWA, old school WCW, old school Jim Crockett Promotions kind of territory, and I'm going to use Halloween Havoc as the link. The Rey Mysterio Eddie Guerrero match was Halloween Havoc 1997. I'd like to jump in our little wrestling TARDIS, our little wrestling time machine, and go way back when to the very first Halloween Havoc, which took place in 1989. And you mentioned 4 great wrestlers taking part in the matches that we saw today. The main event of Halloween Havoc 89 was a main event that featured 4 great wrestlers. Well, 5, I suppose, if you include the referee. The main event of Halloween Havoc 1989 was Sting and Ric Flair working together in 1989, which is kind of unusual, but Flair was going through a weird babyface run at this stage. And they are facing the team of the Great Muta and Terry Funk in a Thunderdome cage match with, strangely, the WWF's longest reigning champion, Bruno Sammartino, as the guest referee in a WCW event. Because obviously he fell out with Vince because wrestling. That's where I would like to go. Something a little bit more old school, but with a lot of star power. So the main event of Halloween Havoc 89, Sting and Ric Flair versus Muta and Funk, Thunderdome cage, Bruno Sammartino as the ref. Lovely, lovely, lovely stuff.
Yeah, I mean, 2 great picks. Again, patting ourselves on the back. We bring it with these picks and with the links together. So yeah, I'll be more than
Danny knows. Danny knows.
Liam knows. Yeah, 2 great picks. Let's see how the listeners and the watchers vote.
Yeah, going to be very interesting. The poll will be up shortly after the audio version is out. The audio version is normally out and about sometime on the Wednesday, so the poll will probably be up on Thursday at some stage. The poll will be on Twitter, which is at @chain_wrestling there. Vote away, get involved, and so on. And also keep a lookout on all of our social medias, Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter, for our non-wrestling topic, general conversations, and so on, as to what we discuss before we discuss the wrestling. Yeah, I know. Mags is my wife's favorite podcaster.
Out of the 2.
Out of the 2. Okay. I want to say thank you so much to everybody for joining us today on this special Chain Wrestling Sunday, Chain Wrestling Live. It's been an absolute blast. I'll run through the options one last time for you. We have the main event from Vengeance 2001, Chris Jericho beating The Rock and then facing Austin to unify the championships. Lots of star power there, lots of gold flying around, title belts, excitement, everything. Great stuff. Or we have the main event from Halloween Havoc 1989, Ric Flair and Sting versus Terry Funk and the Great Muta, with Bruno Sammartino as the guest referee in a Thunderdome cage match. 2 great options. Look out for the poll on our Twitter. Magsy, where can everybody find you?
So if you're watching live, I am down here on the Twitter. If you're listening on audio format, it is at PodfatherMags, where I am heavily involved in all things Radio Tekkers. We're doing some really kind of fun, interesting things here. So definitely give us a like, a sub, a share. You can usually hear me talking UFC with my son Carlos, and I also have another project with the Chair Shot called A Changing Attitude, where me, Tanner, and Ori are going back through the Attitude Era of WWF and reviewing it raw by raw, pay-per-view by pay-per-view, and giving it a going over with 20-21 hours.
I'm really enjoying that as well. I'm ahead of you a bit, I think, because these Raws you're reviewing are only like 45 minutes on the network, aren't they?
Yeah.
So I'm kind of ahead of you now, because I'm still watching in order, awaiting the episodes of A Change in Attitude to go along with them. But after I watch one, I end up watching another. And I'm really enjoying going back through this time frame. So if anyone's not done this already, please do so. Go check out the old episodes of Monday Night Raw from 96, 97. With Magsy's podcast as an accompaniment to it. It's fantastic. And that is awesome as well. Thank you so much, Charlie. I'm really glad you've enjoyed the show. That's my youngest, my wrestling muse. She looks at these old matches through fresh eyes.
It really means the world to us. It really, really does. I'm glad she's enjoyed it.
Okay. You can find me at SJP Words. Again, it's somewhere around here. Look at that. There we go. Right there I am. Look, there you go. At SJP Words on Twitter. You can find the show at @chain_wrestling on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. Keep your eyes out for all our non-wrestling topics, discussions, and the poll to vote in for where we go next week. I'm off now to go and see how much air actually is in a Mint Aero. Magsy, I'll speak to you next week, my friend.
50%. Bye-bye.
50.
With a tear in my eye. This is the greatest moment